Good day, class, and welcome to our virtual class discussion in FSM 4 Advanced Baking. And I'm sorry for the noise, class, kasi yung bahay namin along the highway lang, so maririnig talaga yung ingay ng sasakyan. So, before we start to discuss, let's have a short video prayer first.
Almighty God, you are the source of life. We thank you for all the blessings you have given to us. Thank you for giving us another day to learn something new. Clear our mind and help us focus. Guide us and our teacher as we study and create new learning experiences. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
The prayer is done, and make sure you have a pen and a paper to write or take down notes, the important detail in what we're going to discuss. So, next slide. Our motivation activity is guess the picture. What mixing method in the picture? So, let's go to number 1. What do you think? What do you think in what kind of mixing technique that you see in the picture? The answer is beating. Okay, let's go to the number 2. The answer is whisking. Let's go to number 3. Mabilis lang to, class. Alam nyo rin tong mga mixing technique. The answer is rolling. And the last is ito, medyo mahirap to kasi hindi ito familiar sa inyo. The answer is laminating. Madidiscuss ko itong laminating mamaya. So, Sir Macapas. Okay, Sir Macapas, you are first to discuss.
Alright, thank you, Ma'am Stephanie. And now it's my turn to discuss now. And again, I introduce myself. I am Arnold D. Macapas, your second sub-teachers for today. And please, Ma'am Stephanie, next the slides. Okay, for the objectives, at the end of the lessons, the learners are expected to identify the types of muffin and their mixing methods. Next, demonstrate some additional popover making tips, and the last, value the importance of mixing techniques applied for pies and pastries. Okay, ma'am, please the next slides. Okay, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. What is a muffin? A muffin is a chemically leavened, butter-based bakery product. Its formulation is somewhere in between a low-ratio cake and quick bread. Muffin batter is typically deposited or placed into small cup-shaped pan before baking. This gives the finished product especially cupcake or mushroom-like shape. Class, a muffin, a quick bread made of butter containing egg and baked in a pan having cup-like. So that's it. And please, ma'am, next the slides. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Two main types of muffins and their mixing method. First, standard muffins. contains less sugar and fat with cake like a muffin. The fat used is usually in liquid form, either an oil or melted butter. Mixing is done by the muffin method and stirring must be kept to a minimum so that gluten is not overdeveloped. The interior of crumb has small and more irregular holes. Look at the slide picture. The top should be golden brown and the walls should be too thick. Muffin should be tender and moist. The crumb should be break apart without crumbling. Okay, ma'am. Please the next slide. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Mixing methods of standard muffins. The muffins method is used to mix most standard muffin batters. Only 2 bowls are needed to make batter. 1 bowl is used to mix all ingredients together. The second bowl contains all wet ingredients. First, combine dry ingredients in 1 bowl, mixing well. If you didn't mix them before combining ingredients, when baked, the muffin will likely get elongated holes, tunnels inside. Second, combine wet and sugar ingredients in another bowl, beating well until frothy and small bubbles appear. Third, finally, combine the dry and wet by hand with a wooden spoon, just enough to blend. Do not overmix. Only 10 to 15 strokes are needed to moisten. The ingredients and the butter should still lumpy. In Tagalog, yung bukol, yung bumubukol. Do not try and smooth it. The lumps will disappear when the butter bakes. When lifted with a spoon, the butter should break and separate easily. And the last, form and bake immediately in a well preheated oven. And do not overbake. Okay, ma'am, please the next slides. Thank you, ma'am. Next, number 2, cake like muffins. A higher sugar and butter content. The mixing is done with the creaming method, or where butter and sugar are creamed together and needed more stirring to develop the desired structure. The interior crumb should have smaller air holes and tender, more like a cake. Cake and muffin class are both baked food products. The difference between cakes and muffins is that a muffin is a form of bread, whereas a cake, which is much sweeter, is not. Cakes are the favorite dessert choice, while muffins are served for breakfast. Cake usually have frosting on them, while muffins are never roasted. Okay, ma'am, please the next slides. Okay, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Mixing method of cake like muffins. To mix with creaming method is prepared using the same method as mixing a batter. Cake batter where the butter and sugar are creamed together. The higher sugar and fat content in types of muffin act as tenderizers by minimizing gluten thereby producing a richer, like a cake-like muffin with a softer crumb. First, the butter and sugar are creamed together. Second, the eggs are mixed in. Third, the wet and dry ingredients are added alternately. Fourth, butter will look smooth. Do not overmix. Last, form the bake immediately in well preheated oven. Do not overbake. Plus, overbaking can also create dry cakes because the moisture in cupcakes bakes out. Therefore, to cookies, cakes, muffins, pancakes, and breads that are tough, gummy, or unpleasant chewy. And please, next slide, Ma'am Stephanie. Okay, class, watch the video. This video is the mixing methods of the muffins.
So for any baking method, we're going to start with properly scaled ingredients, which I have scaled out by weight here. So to begin our muffin method, we need to start by sifting our dry ingredients together. So I'm going to use a tammy sieve or a drum sieve for this. I can just place this right over top of my bowl. So I'm going to add, from this muffin ratio I'm using, we're going to use flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. Then I'm going to use my bowl scraper and just press the dry ingredients through my sieve. All right, so I have my dry ingredients sifted together. I'm going to just set this aside. And our next step is going to be to combine all of our liquid ingredients. So that's going to include, for this ratio, our milk, our eggs, and our oil. For this ratio, we're using oil. If I was using butter, I would melt the butter and I would include that in my liquid ratio as well. And lastly, I'll include my vanilla extract. All right. Now I want to use a whisk and just combine all of my liquid ingredients. It's important that we have the liquid ingredients well combined, because in our next step, when we add our liquid to our dry ingredients, we're going to try to mix as little as possible. So if I didn't have my egg well separated into my liquid ingredients, I would have to overmix when I added the liquid to the flour, which would give our muffins a tough consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my liquid ingredients and pour them into my dry. Scrape out my bowl, make sure I have accurate ratio. And I'm just going to mix together my liquid and dry ingredients until all of my flour, all of my dry base is moistened. You're going to see that this is going to be a little bit lumpy, and that's okay. It's better to have this be a little bit lumpy than to overmix it and end up with tough muffins. You can see I'm scraping around the sides of my bowl, making sure I get the bottom so that there's no areas that aren't mixed. All right, so I'm going to go one more motion here. All right, so this is where I'm going to stop mixing at this point. You can see that all of our liquid and dry ingredients have combined together and are well moistened, but there are still some lumps remaining, and that's okay. It's better to have this be a little bit lumpy than to overmix it and end with tough muffins. This is also the point where if I was going to add maybe some fruit or chocolate pieces, whatever it may be, that I would go ahead and add that and mix that in as well. All right, so let's review our muffin mixing method. First, we're going to start by sifting together all of our dry ingredients. We're then going to combine all of our liquid ingredients, including the fat and eggs that we're using, and then mix those wet and dry ingredients together. Finally, be careful not to overmix your muffins. It's okay for the batter to be lumpy, and better to be lumpy than to have tough muffins at the end.
Alright, and that's where the short video ends. And now, Ma'am Stephanie, it's your turn to discuss.
Okay, Sir Macapas, thank you. And I will continue our discussion. So, next slide. What is popovers? It's a puffy bread product that looks like an oversized muffin with a very thin, moist walls, somewhat hollow interior and crispy brown crust. Ang popovers ay looks like a muffin but oversized lang yung kanyang mukha. Pero yung sa picture, sa pan pa lang yan. Pero pag nakuha mo, malaki talaga siya. And ang kanyang meron siyang very thin moist walls. Then minsan may somewhat hollow interior and crispy brown crust. Yung kanyang crust is crispy. Popovers are made from thinness of all quick bread batters with a liquid to flour ratio of 1:1. They are leavened by eggs and steamed in a batter of flour, milk, and salt, mixed by the muffin method, followed by beating to make it smooth and free lumps, giving popover the characteristics chewy texture. Made from yung popovers, quick bread batters. So dapat yung flour ratio niyan is 1:1 lang talaga. Then ang kanyang mga leavened ingredients is eggs steamed in a batter of flour, milk, and salt. Then ang kanyang mixing method is muffin method. Then you have to follow by beating to make it smooth and free lumps. So need mo siya talaga i-beat to make it smooth and para wala siyang lumps. Yung parang bilog-bilog siya kapag hindi mo siya na-beat talaga ng maayos. Then ang characteristics ng popovers is chewy texture. Sometimes a very small amount of melted butter is added. So paminsan nag-a-add tayo ng nag-a-add ng small amount ng melted butter sa popovers. So popover can plain or flavored with herbs, spices, or cheese. May two types of popovers pala. Pwede siyang plain, then flavored. Just sa flavored, pwede tayo maglagay ng ng cheese, spices, and herbs. So I have a video on how to make a popover. So watch the video, class.
I'm personally very excited about our recipe today. Today we are making something that I've made thousands of times, something that's dear to me, something that I don't eat that often, even though it is so easy to make. We're making popovers today. Popovers are definitely one of those things where you don't realize how easy it is to make until you make it or you see somebody make it. We start with 4 eggs, 2 cups warm milk, and 2 cups of flour. It's a steamed leavened bread, if you will. So the milk and the high heat, because we bake these up at 400 degrees, so the high heat will cause them to rise. So I'm gonna mix half of my flour and half of my milk. It's always best to bring things to room temperature. Definitely helps the rising process or the popping over process. Remainder of my warm whole milk and the remainder of my flour. This ends up being a very loose batter, so don't be overly concerned about that. It really will work for you. Some salt and some pepper. So this is one of those recipes where I've made so many times, I should be able to make it blindfolded. I was actually gonna try it out, but you know what? I just don't like making a mess in my kitchen. I'd end up pouring the milk on the floor and eggs in my shoes. I'm just gonna give this a rough mix. I'm not trying to get the clumps out or anything. Add our batter just about 3/4 of the way. And the last thing we're going to put in here before we put it into the oven is some cheese. And this is not really traditional. You can bake them just as is and you can have a great finished product, but I'm going to put some cheese in there. And this is Gruyere cheese. You can use cheddar cheese. Just a few chunks right on the top. I like my popovers, like my sense of humor. Cheesy. Huh? Speaking of cheesy humor, let's pop these over to the oven. Okay, so we're gonna bake these 400 degrees for about 45 minutes. Take a look at these popovers. All right, enough small talk. Let's try these out.
And that's the video on how to make a puffovers. And in the next slide, next slide. This is some additional puff-over making tips. The batter should be at room temperature and the puff-over will rise higher than if cold or cool. So, dapat yung batter na sa room temperature na cold or cool para mag-rise yung puff-overs natin na na butter mixture. Next, measure with care. Too much fat or water added will weaken the puff-over structure, allowing steam escape and hindering the formation of the cavity. We need to measure our puff-over ingredients. Kung dapat hindi siya too much fat or water. Kasi yung ating puff-overs mag-weaken. Or hindi talaga yung puff-overs mag-rise yung kanyang formation. Now, mix the ingredients until smooth, otherwise puff-overs can fail to rise. So, we need to mix the ingredients until smooth para hindi talaga mag-fail yung ating puff-overs and para mag-rise talaga yung kanyang buttered mixture. Thoroughly preheat the oven. Place pan in oven beforehand to heat. So, bago kita bake, we need to preheat the oven. Then, ilalagay muna pala natin yung pans ng puff-overs para mag-heat siya. Be sure puff-over pan and oven are piping hot when you start to bake puff-overs. This produces a sudden burst or steam in air, causing the puff-overs to puff up quickly. So, i-sure natin talaga na ang pan ng puff-overs is naka-piping hot bago tayo mag-start ng pag-bake ng puff-overs. Para yung puff overs, magano siya, burst of steam in air para ang cause ni is to puff up the puff overs quickly. Not letting the oven get hot before baking is the chef reason puff overs fails to rise. Hindi natin we make sure na na hindi siya sobra na mainit talaga yung oven para hindi mapalpak yung pag-rise ng puff overs. So, muffin tins or custard cups can be used, but special puff overs work best. Ang ginagamit natin na pop over pans ay muffin tins and custard cups. Pwede siya magamit. Pero mas maganda talaga pag yung puff over pans talaga yung kung gagamitin natin. The individual cups should be heavily greased and preheated. Dapat yung kapag yung mga muffin tins or custard cups ang gagamitin, we need to preheated them and make sure na heavily greased talaga siya. Puff over needs to temperature for baking a hot oven, sometimes 150 degrees Fahrenheit for the first 15-20 minutes to make them pop, and then a lower setting, usually 350 degrees Fahrenheit to set the batter and allow them to bake golden brown. So, ang need ng puff overs na ang temperature is 2 temperatures for baking in a hot oven. Sometimes they make a temperature in 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Then sa first 15 minutes first 15 to 20 minutes to make them pop, and then a lower setting. Then sa 350 degrees Fahrenheit naman to add di ba pop na yung yung pop overs. So in another naman 350 degrees Fahrenheit, mag-add tayo ng butter to bake golden brown the puff overs. Then never open the oven door during baking. The rush of cold air will cause them to collapse. So hindi natin kailangan siya like sa cake, 'di ba? Paminsan yung ating pag ng time hindi tama. So we need to kailangan natin tingnan yung cake na luto na ba. Ginagamit natin yung stick or chopstick. Tinutusok natin pagbasa, hilaw pa siya. Pag hindi basa, luto na yun. Pero sa puff overs, hindi talaga pwede siya i-open na while baking. Kasi pag i-open natin, yung magka-cause siya ng yung cool air. Ang cool air niya will cause them to collapse. So, that is some additional pop over making tips. So, dapat sundin natin yung yung tamang pag-process ng paggawa ng puff overs. Kasi kapag palpak, sayang yung ating ingredients. So, what is pies and pastries? Pies is a baked dish which is usually made of pastry dough casing that covers or completely contains a filling of various or savory ingredients. When say pies, kita nyo ba yung sa taas at sa pinakababa na picture? Yan yung pies na made siya sang pastry dough. Then kinakover siya ng pastry dough, tapos yung sa loob niya is may filling of various flavored na ingredients. Pastry, a dough of flour, water, and shortening that may savory or sweetened. Sweetened pastry are often described as a baker's confectionery. So, sa pastry, yung pastry is a dough, like, same sila ng tart. And mayroon silang flour, water, and you need to shortening to be savory or sweetened. May kasi yung may types din yung yung pastry. Yung kasi yung pastry na types is like may sila, may tawag nun ng like sa pies, may flavored sila, tapos yung isa is plain lang. Yung sa sweetened pastry, nag-describe siya as baker's confectionery. So, let's go to the next slide. This is the importance of mixing technique applied for pastries. First is the first importance of mixing techniques for pies and pastries is stirring. Mixing all ingredients together, usually with a spoon in a circular motions. So, in pies and the importance of techniques in pies, mixing techniques in pies and pastry is stirring. So, we need to stirring the all ingredients ng pies and pastries para ma-mix talaga lahat ng ingredients nila. Next is beating. This is a rigorous mixing of ingredients using a wooden spoon, electric whisk, food mixer or food processor. So, another importance is beating. In pies and pastry, we need to beat our ingredients to beat them all and mix them out. Another is whisking. Are commonly used to whip egg whites into a firm foam, to make meringue, or to whip cream into whipped cream. So sa pies and pastry, they are also the importance is also is whisking. I don't need to explain the whisking because alam kong discuss na din ito ng ating ibang reporters. Another is rolling. Rolling pin is a cylinder food preparation utensils used to shape or flatten doughs. This is also an importance of mixing techniques for pies and pastry kasi ang rolling kasi rolling the dough of pastry para maging flatten talaga yung dough, and mag-mix yung mga ingredients ng pies and pastries. So, another importance is laminating. Itong laminating, I think dito sa ating familiar. Laminated dough is a culinary preparation consisting of many thin layers of dough separated by butter, produced by repeated folding and rolling. So, sa pies and I think sa lang to sa pies kasi yung laminating, when we say laminating kasi sa pies, yung pag natin ng yung sa taas ng pie, yung cover niya i-laminating kasi natin yun para magpantay yung ating mga magpantay yung kanyang layer at saka yung sizes ng ating paglagay ng cover. So, another one is creaming. Creaming is used to refer to several different culinary processes in baking. It is the blending of ingredients with a softened form of solid fat. Sa creaming naman, I think sa pies lang ito kasi yung pies kasi may may flavored like buko pie, apple pie, strawberry pie. So we need this is the importance for pies. Need nila ng creaming mixing techniques. So the last is kneading. Kneading is a process in the making of bread or pasta dough used to mix the ingredients and add strength to final product. Its importance lies in the mixing of flour with water. So, this is also the importance for pies and pastry kasi sa paggawa kasi ng dough, dapat natin yung minamasa para mag-mix talaga yung ingredients, then magsustrength yung yung final product ng dough. Kapag hindi pa okay yung dough, pwede tayo mag-add ng flour or water para mag-strength yung kanyang dough and to make the product perfect. And that's the all importance of mixing techniques. And this is the end of our virtual class discussion, FSM 4 and advanced baking.